Ambassador in London is expected to hold a press conference later today to comment on the allegations that the two men identified as members of the Russians GRU, their secret service military spying agency, carried out the Skripal poisonings. Of course, we've seen not just the revelations from the security services, the photographs of these two men with their false identities. Vladimir Putin saying, no, these are just ordinary guys. They were tourists. And then, of course, these two men appeared on Russian television to say they were just really terribly excited about the 123-metre high spire of the Salisbury Cathedral. Well, since then, Bellingcat investigative news agency has actually exposed these two men as being senior GRU officials who've actually both received personally medals of honour from Vladimir Putin, the Russian president themselves. Well, what do we expect to hear from the Russian ambassador today? Well, let's talk to Dr. Alan Mendoza, executive director at the Henry Jackson Society, who joins us now. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Good morning. Now, we've seen these press conferences before, and we are back into the territory, if my elder listener could remember, back in the Iraq War with the man who became known as Comical Ali, who the foreign minister for, or Minister of Information, I think, for Saddam Hussein, who even with bombs dropping behind him on Baghdad would stand on the roof of his building saying, everything's fine, we're winning the war. Is this the sort of territory we're in with the Russian ambassador? He's going to stand up once again in front of the world's media and deny everything.
Yes, he's done it already. I mean, he did a press conference after the attack, denying everything, rambled on about all manner of conspiracy theories, and then ended with a flourish and left the stage. So, yes, of course we can expect it, but the Russians have been doing this since the attack. They've been doing it before the attack in general. It's part of their operational strategy to deny and to lie about everything.
Well, indeed, it's an interesting strategy because it's sort of slightly laughable. Although I did get a little bit cross with some of the TV broadcasters who sometimes play out these press conferences in full, allowing effectively Russian propaganda on British national television. I mean, we're not allowed to publish, British propaganda, quite rightly. So it seems strange that we do the others. But what is the purpose of this? Because the world is laughing at Russia over this. I mean, if they wanted to carry out a sinister attack and have the world know about it, fair enough. But to then sort of make these rather, laughable defences and claims that this is all a fabrication from the British authorities and all just made up lies. Doesn't it just make them look silly, or do they just simply not realise it? Are there enough people who believe it that it's worth doing?
Well, I think it's part of the established procedure in terms of Russian operations overseas these days. Doesn't matter how much evidence comes to light, still deny it, because then you have a fig leaf in your mind, if nothing else, that nothing actually happened and that you were not responsible. Of course, everyone can see through it. At the start, let's not forget, it had some impact. Even Jeremy Corbyn was saying, I'm not sure what was going on over there. Of course, I'm not suggesting anyone thinks that now, but and this is a bit ridiculous down the line, but clearly at the start of a crisis, the Russian tactic has some value to them because it causes people to just think twice about the evidence that they're seeing in front of them and come to the conclusion the Russians want, which is, I don't know what's real anymore.
Yeah, indeed. It's same as Donald Trump does. It's fascinating how much they use the same playbook, isn't it? Dr. Alan Mendoza from the Henry Jackson Society, thank you very much. Well, let's talk about something